Hello again, you extraordinary subscribers, beautiful people, and rabid internet fan base. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hemingway Land YouTube channel. As it stands right now, guys, it's about midnight, and between now and 6 a.m., I've got about 50 things on the to-do list. This is one of them. So, we're not going to do the normally very carefully and well thought out and deliberately structured video this week. We're going to jettison that, guys. We're just going to bang this one out. Going to bang it out, guys, because we got a lot to do. So, special thanks to all our valued customers. It has been, guys, another crazy busy week here at the North American offices of Hemingway Land, selling a bunch of property. First off, in Taos County, up the northern part of the state, whole bunch of returning customers. It pays to subscribe to the email blast, guys. It pays to subscribe to the YouTube channel. As Doris, Jejun, Ben, and Luke, I'm sure, can all attest. So special thanks to them, as well as new customers, Janine, Patrick, Devon, and Josh in Taos County. Going south into Socorro County, sold some land this past week to Blanca, Miguel, and returning customer Miguel. Special thanks to all of them. And in neighboring Valencia County, Edward and returning customer Luke bought some land from South there. Special thanks to them. And even though I made a big deal last week about how we weren't going to talk about people who merely place a deposit, returning customer Vicente, one of the Hemingway Land All-Stars, placed a deposit on one of our Chavez County properties. You remember the Chavez County properties, guys? Listed these like longer ago than I care to admit. And at the time I was like, oh boy, these are some solid properties. These are going to fly right off the shelf. Well, not so much. Whatever the case, Vicente closing through title and escrow with us on that big $28,000 one, so special thanks to Vicente. In addition, guys, up in Colorado, sold some land in Costilla County to Kim and Britton. Kim and Britton, by the way, special thanks not only because they bought the land, but because they elected to close outside of escrow. We always like the outside of escrow, guys. It saves you money, it saves us time. And we've had a lot of that this past month. A $40,000 property, $32,000 property, a $12,000 property. A lot of people placing their trust in Hemingway Land, always appreciated. Anyway, with all that said, people, going live on the website this week, we are back in Baboom, Rio Arriba County. Now, before I get into the sales pitch here, people, let me say this. This is a really interesting property. It's in a really nice location. It has surprising amenities, but it will not, let me say that again, not be for everyone. And the price on this is really low for this county, both just as a sales price, but more specifically on a price per acre basis. There is nothing, and I mean no thing, in Rio Arriba County that comes close to this. And we've priced it this way for some of what we'll call the knocks against the land, or some of the costs that may be associated with developing it. That being said, when it first came across my desk, I thought it looked interesting enough to take a chance on. And after having seen the photos, I would say that was a good call. So I'm going to do this a little differently here. First, let me bring this up on a map, kind of zoomed in close up of the region, and then we'll pull back and we'll talk more about what's out here. So when I first looked at this, what jumped out at me was that it seemed to sit at the base of a canyon. Now, normally I'm not crazy go nuts about something like this because it means the road access is probably terrible, there's no utilities, and more than half of it is on a cliffside that can't be built on. Well, so then we finesse the map here, and we can see that easily more than half the land here is on the side of a pretty rocky cliff. So I wasn't that far off in my guess. But then, what really struck me about this is that if you pull back, you start to see that there are actually other home sites constructed out here at the base of this canyon. And if you kind of eyeball Google Maps here, you can tell that some of them are mobile home, trailers, that sort of thing that you'd expect. But then you see what look to be some nicer structures over here and here. Additionally, if you zoom back a little bit, you can see that in the flatter area up here, there are actually a number of home sites already built that also look pretty nice. And this is kind of a contradiction. I don't see this combination, a lot of rocky terrain and a lot of homes. Well, then we send the photographer out, and here's what he comes back with. So first off, this is a shot from the land itself. This is the flatter area at the base of the canyon. Here's another shot from the same property, and here still is another. And finally, this is a view from the top of the property. This thing literally has such a diverse topography to it that it changes quickly the higher the elevation you are. More to the point, as you can see from the shots, is that it's got a unique backdrop to it, which are these canyons that tower above the land. Now, the next thing that makes it interesting is, shockingly, it actually has power, phone, and underground telecom lines servicing the neighboring home site to its north, which means you actually have all utilities at the northern lot line of the property. Additionally, there are some pretty decent looking home sites out here, and get this, waste collection services. They have garbage removal services in this, what we'll call, neighborhood. And finally, another thing that I really think is cool about this lot is that, and you can kind of see it in the drone shot here, it has legal access both along the top of the property up here along this road that leads into the canyon and the bottom of the property along this road down here, which means not only that you can access it from both points, but likely makes it a heck of a lot easier if you decide to develop a home site at the top of the property. So you can either build down below in the shadows of the canyons, or you can be up high above overlooking everything. Now, to be clear, guys, the road access gets harder the closer you get to the land. Larger truck or off-road capable vehicle, as we like to say, that'll be needed in most of this region. That goes without saying. But especially at the base of the canyon, as you make your way to the property itself, it gets really rough. Additionally, of course, probably about half the acreage for the property is this rugged, rocky terrain. And even the parts that are what we'll describe as flatter will still probably require some work before you can begin building anything. But all that said, drawbacks aside, I think as you can see from the footage, it's a really pretty place to build a home site, especially if you're looking to create some kind of idiosyncratic cabin or shipping container home or a vacation spot that really blends in and takes advantage of its surroundings. I think this is a really good one for something like that. And of course, what makes it even nicer, if you go back to Google Maps and you pull back from the original view I showed you, you can see that the property is located in Abiquiu, close to, yes, the 5,200 surface acres of water that make up the Abiquiu Lake. Perfect, of course, for boating, fishing, jet skiing, and the like, but it also sits in really close proximity to Plaza Blanca, which is, of course, the picturesque part of New Mexico that inspired the art of Georgia O'Keeffe, hence the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, located within about 5 minutes of the land. Finally, guys, just before I move on, I'm just going to encourage you, check this one out, even if you have no interest in buying it, because we've been doing this for a long time now, and I don't know that we've ever had a property that boasted this kind of setting and these kinds of views. So I think it's at least worth just looking at the photo gallery. Anyway, with all that said, next up, we are back in Quay County this week with our final property in this region, at least for now. This one, guys, is, like the other ones we have listed out here, very close to Ute Lake. Unlike the others, however, it is not in the South Shores community, but rather in the more developed region here on the north side of the lake. And as we go to the map, you will see that this is a corner lot located here where perch meets muskie. And of course, when you see this kind of development, you can bet the lot not only has utilities such as power and telecom, as you see here, but also city utilities such as water and sewer. So for those of you wondering about building on a lot under 3/4 of an acre, you'll be glad to know that the restrictions you typically find in more rural parts of the state will not apply here, as pretty much everyone in the region has a home already sitting on 1/2 acre of land. Now, this lot is also notable, guys, because the previous owner left some stuff on the lot, which some of you may be interested in. For instance, there's this old gas tank. There's also the bed of an old pickup truck, and finally, this shed. What's inside the shed, you ask? Well, nobody knows, guys. It's got a padlock on it. That said, here at Hemingway Land, we buy these properties as is, and we sell them as is, which, of course, means if you buy the land and open the shed and find out it's filled with gold bars, they're yours to keep. On the flip side, people could also be filled with venomous snakes. You don't know. Nobody knows. Whatever the case, Hemingway Land lays no claim to the contents of the mystery shed. With all that said, going live on the website next week, we are back in New Mexico yet again. We're going hard on New Mexico for a couple weeks here, people, I know, but we'll be back yet again in a region we've been to many times before, in a subdivision we've somehow never been before. I guess there's still a few of those out there. Whatever the case, check back next week to learn more. Until such a time, have a great 168 hours, and we will see you back here in next week's video.